Considering I've had quite a few appointments this week, so yeah, I do feel pretty good considering. I was, can you hear me over the fan behind me? Okay, yeah, okay. I was at Tufts the day before for 2 big appointments. The day before that, I had like my primary care, and I want to say physical therapy, and 2 days before that. But I like to cluster my appointments so I can just get that appointment tiredness, fatigue over with at like one point in the month. So, but considering everything I've done, honestly, I feel manageable today. So I'm happy, you know, especially I'm on like new RA meds. So that's like a good sign too. So all that's good. My appointments went well. My rheumatologist told me did not answer because she is furious. She's talked to you guys multiple times. She says the same thing every time. She feels like what she's reporting isn't being reported accurately if this stuff is still going on. She wrote me a letter about my conditions and things like that, but yeah, she's furious. And it's like every time she's contacted, it's in this like state of like disbelief of my condition or how serious it is, how much my medicine actually costs. Is it really thousands and thousands of dollars? And she's getting tired of reiterating herself. Now I know that comes from, in the beginning, Katie, Lisa, and Sherry were all saying things along the lines of that, like, my disease isn't that bad. Even in the initial DCF report, I was imagining my bones are dissolving. I was having grand delusions, it says. That's actually part of rheumatoid arthritis. It's called osteolysis, and I do indeed have it in these 2 joints here. So she's pretty furious. She feels like this is harassment. Well, no, not you, Jen. Yeah, not you. It's the calls before you. But right, but what she's saying is she was contacted by the investigator a couple times. She was contacted by, it must have been Lydia, the social worker. She's repeating herself every time, so she does not understand why you guys are still calling her and trying to verify information when she's already talked to you guys multiple times. Because I've been very upfront with my doctors. My doctors know every single thing that's going on. That's what I've said. I have not one doctor was concerned about mental stability, instability, all that. I was in therapy. I had my psychiatrist. I was working on all this. Again, I had a plan for me and Ari from the jump, a therapeutic plan that Lisa came in and dropped an entire bomb on. I said from the jump, my sister is going to isolate my daughter away from me. She has done this in the past. This is what she does. It's about power and control. And then she just continued to do that. And it's like even today, I'm still struggling to have like decent communication with my daughter. Even, what was it, just a week ago. First of all, can I pause you for a second? Yeah. Yep. I don't want to interrupt. No, that's okay. I'll write it down so I can circle back to it.
Yeah, because I feel like last time we kind of, I want to make sure from the beginning that we have an opportunity to kind of, we're only able to, I have an additional meeting at 1. So
all right, so you guys go ahead, because I'm just going to write this down so I can circle back to it, because it's something that's been bothering me and it comes to something recent. So I'm just going to write down these 2 notes, perfect. And then
I'll pause while you write.
Communication, and like I can certainly talk to her and see if she'll have it. It's not on my end. I will talk to her because I have to get back to her because it was like one little spelling error in the letter she wrote me. And I don't want to send that to disability. Like for you guys, it would be fine. I'm not like too worried about it. But like as far as like disability and stuff like that, it's going to need to get fixed. So I'm going to have to get in contact with her anyways. But I'm just letting you kind of know that because I just saw her and it's fresh in my brain. All right, why don't you guys get started, and that way I can just kind of take notes so I can come back to the stuff I want to come back to.
I never heard back from them. They were calling me calls. Like I left a voicemail asking for like clarification on stuff, the same as Jen, and they never heard back. That was a while ago.
Yeah, and one of the things that she might not know, Julie, that because she might not be used to being like a collateral, but pretty much anybody that is a provider for a family is someone that we try to make sure that we're getting updates from, to just understand, you know, how someone's doing, what's going on. So it's pretty common that when we have an ongoing case open, that every month we're calling providers. So the same way that we call your therapist or your psychiatrist or your daughter's therapist, like sometimes if we have kind of sometimes with a medical doctor, we might not need to necessarily be doing regular routine monthly phone calls the way that we do with therapeutic providers or schools or things like that. But I think Darcy and I had some questions similar to perhaps yours that we wanted to follow up from the response to kind of get some clarification and say, okay, this is what is written in the response, but we want a chance to kind of really follow back up with that provider and say, okay, well, this is what's here, this is what we have for information, can we clarify with you, and try to, if there's no concern here, be able to kind of rectify, like you said, the way that stuff might be presented, to be able to have an opportunity to kind of follow back up with that provider and say, if there's no need for us to be worried, we want to make sure that we can kind of have that conversation.
I understand that, and she understands what it's like to be a collateral. So I think what happened then is, if you really didn't get in touch with her, which I don't know because I haven't, requested my most recent DCF records and notes and stuff like that. I'd only have them up till December, so I'd have to check that myself. She was contacted then a few times by then that initial investigator and told her multiple times, like, no, there's no concern. She has a serious disease. Stress management is number one. She has reported issues with her sisters for a while, just like my psychiatrist reported, that there's been toxicity, this and that. And that she felt the investigator was incredibly inappropriate in fishing for like information almost to support like I was like bipolar or something, because that was another thing that was being said about me in the beginning. So I could certainly talk to her so she'll have a chat with you. You know what I mean? But like that, she'll tell you herself, honestly. So she'll tell you herself, and it'd probably be better her coming out of her mouth than mine, telling you how, you know what I mean, she felt in the taste it left in her mouth, because this is the physician's assistant that works directly under the chief. That's my main team, is those two. I don't see fellows, anything like that. So I'm wondering, it probably was the investigator. And, the other thing was too, because she was, excuse me if I eat my tangerine, I'm sorry. She was basically just saying how, she just kept calling and like fishing for information, trying to see if I was unstable or this or that. So my main frustration at this point is, well, everybody, including the state, people in my life, former friends, family, whatever, have been spreading rumors and hearsay and this and that about my mental instability. And then the proof is, when they put my daughter in sketchy situations they know I wouldn't want her in, and then have the kids videotape my reaction, then they turn that into Lydia, call that mental instability. Lydia then went into the courtroom multiple times saying, oh, we don't like how Miss Barry talks to her daughter, so we're supporting the guardianship. And then last week I have Katie. Now I told Lydia that between the stuff with her, Katie's ex-husband and all that, all it would have taken is one call to Katie's psychiatrist. She was my best friend for 23 years. This is so unlike our friendship, what she has done to me, for a betrayal on my behalf. That's not, that's personal. All it would have taken was one call to Nova and talk to her prescriber and see she's not stabilized on meds, see that she is bipolar, see that she has to take 3 to 4 Klonopin a day to stay stable. And no, I wouldn't be bringing this up, but this is where my daughter goes every single weekend. And I've been bringing it up from the jump. And she was screened out immediately with absolutely no calls to any collateral, even after her ex-husband harassed my daughter, threatened to get into bed with her, and I have the text messages. And I even said to the DCF investigation unit, Lydia and the judge, I said, well, then subpoena their phones if you don't believe it. Like, there's conversations between the girls that will confirm it. So then Katie is basically, they talk inappropriately to the children anyways, Lisa and Katie. What I mean by that is like adult conversations. So there was an issue a couple weeks ago when Savannah and Ari were at Katie's while Katie's out getting wasted. So they're unsupervised, which like she was with my niece Maria or something. I had no issue with that, but you know what I mean? Savannah sneaks out. I love Savannah. She's like my child. We had them 9 days apart, but I'm more strict. They don't need to be walking around at 10:30 at night in North Weymouth when Katie's out getting drunk. And that's like every weekend. So I said something, so we're only supposed to talk on parenting time because of Lisa's restraining order. So I add my dad to the group chat because I'm tired of her like would be texting and be like, and I'd have a concern and she'd be like, this is your last warning. Because they tried to get me arrested multiple times in the fall. And when that failed...
Julie, is this adding him to the text chat? Is this the email that you sent us?
Probably, yeah. So, and even though that seems minor, I'm just trying to give you the context of, so...
No, I just want to make sure that I know what
yes,
you're referring to.
Yes.
That you're talking about is
right.
That incident that you emailed us.
So I have, exactly. So for months and months, I've like known this has been happening, but obviously no way to like prove that or bring it objectively to your table. So it might seem minor, but what they're doing is like, I'll be like, well, Lisa, I don't think they should be like walking around at night. Then I get the text from Ari immediately. Oh, if you think I'm sneaking out, say it to my face. And then it's like, if I have a safety concern that I bring up even in court before, it gets to Ari and it gets to Savannah. And it starts causing issues with me and Ariella. It's extremely inappropriate, but Katie's unstable. Katie takes it to the point of a couple weeks ago was telling Ari that I was like spreading some suicide letter that she wrote like 2 years ago around. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so exactly. So I'm like, so my mom got back to me and I just don't want this getting back to Ari because I want Ari to have someone in the family she can go to and tell the truth and not feel like my mom came back to me to tell me. So it did come from Katie. I knew it came from Katie anyways because I'm like, it didn't make sense. It wasn't falling together. I'm like, and first of all, why are they digging up the past, which isn't even like fully true? Ari had some suicidal ideation. It was like in that same summertime where her father had passed back in early March. I'd really started getting sick. We had a lot of kind of dodgy stuff going on, right? It was tough. So got her right into therapy, all that, did all the good things. So that was being brought up and was like, Ari was literally screaming at me, flipping out, saying she hates me, she doesn't want to come over anymore, I'm spreading her personal business around. And I had a reminder, I'm like, honey, first of all, the only family up here that is involved in this case has restraining orders on me. I do not talk to Katie anymore. I'm done speaking with her. I want nothing to do with her ever again. So you have to understand, I'm like, honey, this isn't making sense. Like, I need you to calm down. So I found it a little ironic that I go to court multiple times and being told that DCF doesn't like the way I talk to my daughter, but I called Darcy to do the right thing, right? Because I couldn't de-escalate Ariella. And yet Lisa's sitting right next to Ariella, a vulnerable, traumatized child with heart palpitations, new psych symptoms since she's been at Lisa's, with a heart monitor on, and she's screaming and crying over something that's not, number one, fully true, and is from years ago, that an adult told her, Katie, where she's sent every weekend, okay? And instead of, that would have been a good opportunity to call Lisa, hey, what's going on right now? 5-minute call. Hey, what's going on right now? Is Ari okay? Getting a report that she's screaming and flipping out about some suicide thing. Do you have anything to add to this? Do you plan on de-escalating her? Do you have any plans to like calm her down? Because if my child's flipping out at the house like that and she's on the phone or whatever, maybe it's like a peer relation or something. You know what I mean? I try to get her off the phone and do like a little bit of a cool off and try to like break it down and talk to her and use those de-escalation techniques, which she's getting zero from. And then instead I was told, oh, well, maybe then you shouldn't have your visit this weekend and basically that's
I
kind of petty.
I want Darcy to be able to explain that, because that's actually not what she meant when she was speaking. So I want to be able to have her respond to that, because I know that was your takeaway from it. But when Darcy and I spoke, that wasn't the intention. So I want to make sure that we can kind of clarify that for you.
By all means.
Yeah, no, I always said that I was worried if Ari is escalated into this, how we were going to handle the business. And that's it. So it really was more about, and I just didn't think it was the exact time to have that in a conversation, but it's like, okay, then how do we make sure that you're both able to de-escalate? How do we want to play this? But there shouldn't be a visit at all, but really, again, how do we want to play the visit so that the visit is as positive for you both as possible?
Well, if you had done your due diligence instead of just believing Lisa's BS about my mental instability, because I have support from every single provider I have and therapist, what you should have done, in my opinion, is call Lisa. See, Lisa's not being met with any type of resistance or pushback at all, no matter how inappropriate she is with the children. This isn't on me and Ari are home together. My sisters were undermining my parenting the entire summer and fall before I cut them off. And that was when I cut them off, they got the restraining orders. That's when Lisa called DCF 5 times, my sole and only reporter. Okay? Because I am a little bit stricter, because I started getting into trouble at that age, okay? That's when I started going out with my older sisters and getting into all kinds of stuff. So I'm a lot stricter. I'm stricter with the phone. I'm stricter with who she gets to be around. Right now, it even says in the courtroom, no, I have no rules to break at my auntie's house, so it's great here. I never get yelled at. It's wonderful. Which, sure, yeah, I don't want to be screaming and yelling at her either, but now it's going to be even more of a crap house to deal with, because she's had no rules, no real regulations. And in my opinion, she's showing physical sign and symptoms of distress hidden under a smile, because she's getting bought. She's been upgraded to a different level of standard of living, because Dan owns his own business. He's basically rich. He has a lot of cash. They have access, he says, access to hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash at any moment down in their safe. So she's very comfortable. So now Ari, not only when she comes home, has to come home to the lower standard of living and this, but these communication, just talking to Ari the other day, we finally were able to sit down and have a normal conversation. When people that aren't working against me, aka Sherry, Lisa, and Katie, and saying inappropriate stuff, feeding inappropriate stuff to my daughter, the adult, I have a safety concern. It's, your mother thinks you're doing this. Your mother thinks you're doing that. So this, I'm sick of every report. It's Julie's not taking accountability. No, where's everyone else's accountability? Because how is me and my daughter supposed to reunite? Where's the plan to make her come home when Lisa's been completely inappropriate, doesn't know how to de-escalate? Okay, has no plans on sending my child home. She said it to the court. She wants permanent guardianship. Yet she never speaks about the court case. And now she's the only one who goes. Ari doesn't even go, so we have no idea. Ari doesn't even know if she's on pretrial probation, post-trial probation, this and that. Now, she's not on Paxil. She told me that because she stayed over that night. And as soon as she got in my car for that sleepover, we're 3 days earlier, she was flipping out.
Julie, what day are you referring to?
I'm all over. This is not just one day.
No, I'm talking about the day that she slept over your house where she's no longer.
Darcy, when was that? That was, so not last weekend, it was the weekend before. So Friday, I must have called Darcy on Thursday or Friday, and I believe she came over on Saturday.
The 1st, July 1st?
I'm looking at my calendar now. Today's the 14th, so you just reminded me, thank you. So it was, because she went back on the 3rd. So it was just under 24 hours. As soon as she
came over from the 1st to the 3rd?
She went from Sunday, yes, the 2nd to the 3rd. Because,
how did that visit go with her?
That's what I'm saying. As soon as she got in the car, we're great. We are fine. We're laughing, we're talking, we're having a good time. You know what I mean? We snuggled on the couch and watched movies. Like, communication with a teenage female is never going to be easy. It is impossible with Lisa involved. Okay? I don't know where this comes out. Like, she might appear more stable. She has more money, more finances, and this and that. But she lets my daughter escalate to these unhealthy limits when she has a heart monitor on and is on new medications and had suicidal ideations in the past and has past trauma and this and that. And being isolated from your mother while being spoiled by your aunts, and like the whole family just kind of like has these big events and just pretends like your mom's dead. None of this is healthy. And it's like,
Julie, I want a chance to interject because we're halfway through our meeting.
yeah.
And there's still.
Okay, go. You know, I'd rather go ahead. You guys go ahead then.
Like, I wanna be able to make sure that we have an opportunity to kind of talk with you about what are the things that are still kind of the things that we're looking for, because some of what you're describing around your concerns, like we talked about before, some of the decisions that are going to be made around visitation, around custody, around all of that, that has nothing to do with DCF.
Not anymore, it doesn't, but you were in the courtrooms for 7 months saying that.
I need you to allow me the opportunity to just kind of say a little bit so that
Okay.
I can kind of stay on track, because just like you, if I don't do it, same thing's going to happen to
Nope.
me, right?
I'll hold my tongue.
So, but if you think of something,
No, I'll write it down.
reply, like, I can pause so that you can write it down, but I just want to make
All right,
sure
let's
that
go
you're
back to
hearing
that
this
then.
too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything about, like, so same thing that happened, right? Like, same thing that happened with your conversation with Darcy the other day is similar to the same thing that happened with our conversation with you before we had even met you guys and the case opened, when Ari was feeling escalated and was saying whatever, and we had said, okay, well, if the family plan is this, if things are heated, take a break. So all we're doing is kind of acting as, yes, we're trying to make sure that there's no protective concerns at your home or at her aunt's home, but we're also we're not necessarily these family therapists, but we are people that are in positions of trying to plan for safety, to say, okay, the same way you're describing concerns around if Ari's escalated, what is Lisa saying, how is she managing that? So Darcy's having that conversation with Lisa, and that's also the same conversation that we're trying to have with you around, like, what are you guys going to do if, and also Ari, because she's old enough to know, like, if you're feeling escalated, what takes place? Do you draw? Do you listen to music?
Right.
Like, what, like, all those things, right? So we're having that conversation with all three of you guys across the board.
Okay, as long that was my main concern.
Whether she's living with you or whether she's living with Lisa or whatever that is, that's still kind of the ongoing piece. The tricky part is that even though the court is the one making decisions around custody and visitation, sometimes they call us in for advice, or like advice meaning what's going on with the DCF case, what's the current status of things, right? And sometimes they don't call us in and we can't provide an update. So what's helpful for us when probate court is involved, for us to be able to provide information, is that rather than it being us kind of providing, well, Lisa said this, well, Julie said this, that's why we really try to reach out to the providers so that we can kind of explain to the court, these are the providers that are working with the family, and this is what their feedback is to DCF about whatever concerns we have or don't have, so that we can kind of inform the court. Because your family situation is going to be your family situation forever. These struggles around,
And that's why I put the boundaries up. No.
These are not things that DCF is.
No, I'm 35 years old. I know my triggers. I know what they've done to me in the past, and I want to live peacefully as possible, and raise my daughter the best I can. So I know that. You know what I mean? That's not going to work. So.
Yeah, so that's why I say that some of what I know is frustrating is that you're in this position right now because this is the way that your visitation is set up through the court. This is the way custody is set up through the court. You're looking for that to be able to change. And so what I want to make sure that we talk about with you today, because we didn't really get to it last time when we did the agenda last time, like some of the things that are always going to come up when we meet on the agenda, like just to go through it kind of real fast, is like in the email, right? We're always going to talk about what's the current status of things with court, with visits, with the, you know, with the services, that stuff. We're always going to talk probably about what's DCF's role versus what's the court's role. And then I think the other piece that we didn't really get to is that one of the things that we're looking to clarify from your providers, right, is this piece around the medications, right? So nobody's necessarily saying that.
And the only person who had that concern was Lisa, who called 5 times, and ironically enough, I hadn't spoken to her. And
so that's what I want to. That's what I want to clarify.
okay.
For you. That's what I want to clarify.
Can I get one thing in just until you you finish?
Sure.
So the thing about the court puts reports into the providers, correct, right? But the problem is that Darcy was getting her updates from Lisa, believing Lisa without going back and checking it. Whether that has to do with Ari's actual well-being, when in reality she was having these silent panic attacks, had to get a heart monitor, got put on medication, whether it had to do with reporting that her attendance and well-being was so much better at Lisa's and this and that. She said all that because I don't know if she heard it from Lisa or not, but the records and the objective evidence did not reflect that at all. And I'm pretty sure that's why the judge didn't even call her back into the courtroom. I never refused to talk to you guys. I told Darcy I don't want any more unrecorded meetings because what we talk about and then whatever she goes and talks about with Lisa, and then we get into the courtroom and Lisa or Darcy like, nope, everything's great. Let's continue the guardianship. I understand that that's not what's going to happen now, but I'm telling you what happened basically in every court date except for the last one. So Lisa and DCF failed to mention my daughter's charges, failed to mention her mental state, failed to mention how her attendance and grades were basically the same. Her attendance and tardies and dismissals were worse the last term than they were the first term. And again, I had a plan with the school, our therapists, a therapeutic plan for all of this. So that's kind of tough for me because normally, it would be great because I do have full provider support. All my providers have told DCF. Some of them are probably just burnt out from that Lee Rivera calling multiple times, and that's probably my rheumatologist. You have to understand. She works at Tufts Medical Center for rheumatology. You know what I mean? And she works directly under the chief. He doesn't just see patients. You know what I mean? He runs the entire department. They're busy. And so they get pretty frustrated. But again, I will sign consent so you can talk to each one of my doctors. I will talk to Devin. Let me know if you want to email me after this, Jen. Tell me which ones you haven't spoken to. And I will reach out to them and I'll send this consents over. And I'll send an email over to...
The only one we don't have is your primary care doctor.
Okay. And I know she was just on vacation too, so... but that's fine. So it would be...
So I think... Yeah, so that's... So I hear you. And I think that's part of the piece around things is that DCF doesn't always, so this is kind of where it always gets tricky when we're working with, when we're working with families, is that our lens as like a child protective agency and what the lens is of a medication like prescriber or a therapist or whatever, it might not always be the same, and that's why and that's okay, but that's why we like to have the conversation so that we can kind of say, okay, this is what we're worried about, what do you think about
right,
that?
So
like those kinds of things.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So one of the things that is that nothing to do with Lisa, right? But around whenever DCF like separate, so say Darcy and I, right, or whatever, or me, whatever way you wanted to do it, that anytime that we are working with someone that's prescribed medications, we try to look at those medications and say, okay, what are these meds? When are they being taken? Because you might have a medication that says 2 times a day or whatever, right? Sometimes it just says like twice a day, morning and night or whatever, right? Like that kind of detail. I take them at 8 a.m. or I take them at whatever time. So that's kind of the level of detail that I think would be helpful for us to know, because when I kind of look at some of the things that you're prescribed, there's a lot of medications in there that have some sedating qualities that we want to be able to just say, okay, so maybe you're taking them like, say, gabapentin or
Gabapentin doesn't make me drowsy.
Or
Gabapentin I take in the morning. That does not make me drowsy.
So that's some of the stuff that I think would be helpful for us to kind of go through with you, is that some of, like, when I spoke with Tufts, never responded to me, but we did have the information from the response, Now I'm not sure whether that's accurate or not, right? Like, if it's still the same, but we do have the information on that. But wanted to be able to kind of go through with you the medications, because for me, there might be somewhere, I know your psychiatrist did follow back up with me and did confirm, like, yes, I'm prescribing these meds.
Yeah, and she sends me for randoms when she deems it appropriate. She'll just give me a call, tell me to go take a urine within 24 hours. Like,
okay, so she did get back to me where I was kind of asking, okay, like, we wanted to just check in to say, what are the meds that you're prescribed, and is there any concern about how they might be interacting with each other? Not that you're misusing or abusing them, but just
okay,
kind of when you're taking them, do they hit at a
but
certain
here's
time?
the other thing too. So number one is, pharmacology was a little passion of mine during nursing. I'm on gabapentin. I take 1 tab a day, just to let you know. I do not get drowsy. I have to take it first thing in the morning. It would keep me up if I took it at night. And I can't take more than 300 milligrams because it makes me feel fuzzy and I don't like it. Now, this case opened because I requested the records because Lee Rivera found neglect for possible drug abuse because I was in such a flare that day with the worst brain fog, but I couldn't go back down the stairs out to my parking lot. Lydia, I took the walk with you when I saw you, though, to show you. I showed her everything else, my Adderall 30. I was coming off the 10 milligram afternoon dose. That was my choice, my option at the time, because I felt like it was like where I'm not working, where I'm supposed to just be focusing on my medical. Do I really need an afternoon dose of Adderall? No, I don't think I do. I came off that on my own. She still found it for neglect despite my levels being drawn in normal. And then I got involuntarily attempted sectioned, where they took my blood and urine 2 weeks after I took the planned drug test that DCF asked for, and my levels, illicit drugs, all that levels were all normal, within normal limits again. Okay? So then it looked like it was switched from, okay, so now it's not drug abuse, whatever, that it's mental instability. Yet not one of my doctors or the ER, who had to make the decision to release me or not when my family was making comments that I was suicidal when I wasn't, and half of them have restraining orders on me. So, like, my concern is it almost seems like it's a little bit like fishing. It's like, oh, shoot, okay, we saw the drug test, those are clean. I let Lydia look at my pills. I don't let you guys open them and that kind of stuff anymore because I'm on two different immunosuppressants at this point. But allowed to take the bottle, count through the bottle, whatever, that's fine. But so that's kind of it too. It's like, okay, fine, talk to my providers and everything, but now what are we on? Since November, and what's today, July, 7, 8 months of this? Because I had but I allowed all the...
But that's what we do. So that's what we do every single month. If this is what...
In a normal case, you do. In a normal case, you do. Remember, I've had a lot of unfortunate DCF background. In a normal case, yes. But this doesn't scream normal at all. My task plan wasn't even written till March. It looks like it was written with Lisa, okay? It made me have to break the law to be compliant with it. It put Lisa in charge of my mental health in progress. It was ridiculous, to be honest with you. I was angry at first when I read it, and then I laughed. I'm like, I can't even be compliant with this. It'd be illegal, and I'm not giving Lisa the ropes to my life so she can get back into controlling my life or whatever she wants to do, because she thinks as my older sister or something, she has that right, but she doesn't. So this isn't a normal case because I'm supposed to get my task plan within 2 weeks of the case opening, but I didn't get one till March because I was actually doing everything I was supposed to be doing. No, me and Ariela's communication was not perfect. That's why I went no contact with my sisters, because as I'm, we're trying to find our new normal in I'm trying to figure out what my new normal is with my disease and what my actual disabilities versus my abilities are with my daughter. Meanwhile, Sherry's going as far as telling my child I didn't need to go on chemotherapy. I chose to. I was just depressed. And then you see how Lisa and Katie act now, telling her really inappropriate conversations that are for the adults to have, that aren't supposed to be spread onto Ari and Savannah to make them irate and try to spin it on me to hate me. So then I didn't even get the task plan dated in March till May.
So Julie, I know there's so much to unwrap here, but I feel like.
But do you get what I'm saying here? Like, it's not a normal case.
We allowed this but we had all this conversation last time we met, and I'm trying to explain to you that part of what we're trying to do to resolve any worry from our end and to be able to report positively if there are no concerns here. And I hear you telling me there are no concerns here. So I'm trying to clarify for you that what we need to do in order to have that same agreement with you, even if I believe and Darcy believes everything that you're saying right now, even if we do, we are still kind of in a situation where how that case opened and what's written in that response, Darcy and I are charged with being able to say, okay, these are the concerns that are written down.
Did you read the initial report?
Yes, but what I'm saying to you is because of what's written there, and that's what opened the case, we have to be able to say, okay, every time we meet with you, we have to be able to talk about, these are the things that are written here, how is that going, what is different, and to ask you and your providers that kind of stuff, to gather that information. So
I understand that. No, I do. I understand that. I've never not been compliant with DCF. There has been a lack of integrity and a lack of accountability and a lack of due diligence on the state's part of actually checking up. So I understand that's the past for you guys, but for me, it's pretty hard to get past, because now I don't care about your call. You can call my doctors all day, but it's like I'm trying to manage my autoimmune illness where stress is like the number one thing you want to manage to keep your immune system from going into overdrive. And I can't even get basic honesty and integrity and make sure the social worker's calling the school to make sure Ari actually is doing good and the attendance is good before reporting to the court that it's all good, because that's what she heard from Lisa. So it's a trust issue for me at this point.
Last time we met in June, we kind of came to almost an agreement of, we can't change the past.
We did.
Let's hash it out. Let's talk about those worries and try to move forward. So I guess my hope is that as we talk today, that we've already covered everything that has, we should really be talking today about what happened from the last time we met to now, right? So so I'm kind of looking at, if we're truly trying to move forward where we tried to hash it out and say clean slate. So when we met on June 26th,
right? So, but that stuff
today should be about
right. But the stuff that I brought up in the beginning is the update. Is the fact that once again, Lisa and Katie, it's almost like what it feels like is they're pinning my child and I against each other instead of trying to support positive communication and all that. They're doing the opposite. And I've asked since the beginning that Ari not be sent to Katie's on sleepovers. If the girls want to have a sleepover,
we can't do that. But DCF can't do that. That needs to be court. We can't tell people that. That has to be a court order. We can't. The same way that we can't tell you that where you can and can't send your daughter unless we have information that we say, okay, this person has. We see that we some stuff we're not
right. You screened the 51A out without even calling Katie's doctor to see that she actually is unstable, because I actually had to file.
Right, we can't do that. Right.
No, I filed a 51A. You guys could have, but it was screened out in February before anyone even called Katie's doctors or anything.
Yeah,
she told me.
But you're right. She's not,
because she sent my daughter to her ex-husband's. No, but you did, and it was screened out immediately without it even being brought up, despite my texts of my daughter calling her ex-husband a pedo. So every time she goes there, it's pretty damn frightening, not knowing where she's going, where her location is, if she's being sent to that guy's house. You guys screened out that too. So I'm only so like I don't want to call myself like borderline. I'm not trying to be hostile. I have severe actual safety concerns for my daughter that go unaddressed. Because what? Because Katie and Lee, like I like to be, with my brain fog and stuff, does me no good to lie. I will not be able to keep up with it. I just won't, okay? But they're just not being that truthful. There's no way to prove that. But it's not just like, oh, this, that. I have had serious concerns, safety concerns for my daughter, what she's doing. I know she's dating boys. I know she's like doing stuff that she wasn't do. She dresses super provocatively and poses online and very like stuff she did not do here. You know what I mean? She's 14 years old. She just turned 14. And the whole thing is because I know, and my poor father, because that's like who I go to with everything, he's the only one in the family I can trust, is like, Savannah's been doing stuff with boys since she was little. She's been hypersexual since she was little. These were all the red flags. That's why I ended up filing when my daughter flipped out at 4 a.m. and didn't call Katie or Lisa. They called me to come get them. But no, that was screened out. All I'm saying is there was an opportunity to scratch that too. So I'm not like just sitting out like, oh, my sister, oh, my ex-best friend, blah, blah, blah. Like there are legitimate safety concerns. And how do I get my daughter's innocence back? How do I get, the attributes that she did have before? You know what I mean? And now it's like, should a child that's going through this and being isolated from their mother when they already had trauma that we were supposed to be working on, and now it's just kind of piled up, her and I have the same issues plus more than beginning, and now she's like dating boys and going into this, that can get real dangerous and unsafe real fast. Because I know Katie doesn't talk to her daughter about anything like sexual health, sex, things like that, of that nature at all. Unfortunately, that job came on me, and they'd always blush and want to run out of the room and whatever else, but it's been important to me. You know what I mean? Nobody was there to tell me when I was a teen to take it easy with boys and take your time, and you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Just, it's good to wait. There's nothing wrong with being a little modest, like whatever. And it's like, now it's basically like a 14-year-old off her leash. And it's like, I can see the signs of like the stress and anxiety, and she masks it very well, just like I did when I was little, because I didn't want to be a burden. And I'm always afraid that it's kind of like the same thing with her. Like, no, I'm just gonna, you know what I mean? No complaints. I'm getting what I want materialized, this and that. So it's like, not gonna bring up the complaints. She doesn't want to be a burden. So.
Yeah, and I'm not, I don't want you to think, we're not disagreeing with the concerns that you have, like we talked about before, right?
Right.
I think that what's hard is that there's certain stuff that you're looking for us to be able to do that we're not able to do. Like, we can't say she can't go there. We can run police responses to that address. But we can't call her doctor.
No, but what I'm saying is I filed the 51A like I was supposed to.
Yeah.
And somehow it got screened out of your office immediately without even a call to her doctor or anything, but despite the fact that I had texted and told them to subpoena that. So I'm just bringing that up. I understand you can't do that now. But the opportunity was there. The opportunity has been here for several months now for there to be like this accountability and whatever else. And I didn't stop talking to DCF. I have about 100 questions between May and like whenever the last time I had a meeting with Darcy going forward on through text that never went answered. Again, it's a trust issue. So yes, we were on the same page. Oh, good, fresh start, whatever. I heard you say that you're communicating with Lisa about de-escalating and communication and stuff. I guess I'll have to take your word for that. But
yeah, I think so. I guess, right, like that's what I guess I wanted to be able to just kind of clarify that from our end, that, you know, the more communication that we have with And I think it would be really helpful to be able to kind of come together and do, like we mentioned before, to have like kind of a provider meeting where we can kind of maybe sit down together. Maybe if your rheumatoid doctor wanted to join that and kind of try to get everything out in the air, maybe John's there too. Like maybe we can do one big provider meeting with you and the people that are your support and kind of say, this is what we're looking to kind of clarify. These are some of the things that came up in the response that we're just trying to kind of say, all right, what do we do with this information? What's the current status of things now? And then we can be able to report that to the court in the event they ask for us or for our record. And if there's no worries, that we can kind of look at, okay, this might have been what happened with the case when the case opened, but this is where we are now. In terms of what happens with visitation or custody,
I understand that's in the court. I'm just saying, like, it's hard now because quite a few and I'm gonna tell you, it was like quite like really upsetting and traumatizing, like to have my daughter like that mad at me for like 2 weeks and like flipping out. And I literally like had no idea what she was talking about because it like wasn't. It was like really like I knew the situation, but like the letter she was talking about, what Katie was saying, I was passing around like the family and showing everyone and stuff. I'm like, who does that to a child? If you really love that child and concerned about them, then why? I've never spoken ill to any of the children in my family about my sisters. You know what I mean? Ever. Even Sherry, who's caused me a litany of issues over the years. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. So it's like, it always feels like, oh, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So I'm fine with a meeting like that. My only concern with Devin is, again, she's like, there might be another physician's assistant there, but she's the main one under the attending. There's more attendings, but I only see the chief because there was an issue last summer with my care being, the ball being dropped by like fellows or whatever. But even if we started with, because I need her right now for disability. I need her focus on disability. I really should have won at the reconsideration level because I won't get too into it, but I had like the 40 work credits. I've worked since I was 14. I have the exact minimum. I adjusted to other work. I did everything the federal government asked for. You know what I mean? But there was calls made to disability. There was calls made everywhere. It wasn't just you guys. And
do you want us to, is that a service that you think, because I know we talked about that before too, and that was one of the other things on the agenda was services, right? And I know we talked before and you had said that in the past you had found a parent aid helpful. Do you think a parent aid in terms of helping with, you know, whether it's organization, whether it's refiling for disability, whether it's...
Well, I have a lawyer and an advocate for that now. I have a lawyer, so I was thinking about it, and Joe, it's still rolling around in that. I haven't forgot about that. I've been thinking about that, what would be useful and whatnot and everything else. But what I mean about Devin, not to not include her, but even if we did the meeting, say like with John, and even if you wanted like a different provider, because Devin is she's a fierce advocate for me, so I wouldn't want, I'm just thinking like as a time constraint for her and needing her to put some muscle in on the disability thing. But what I could do is if we had a meeting with John and, you know, if I can find another provider that you think or that you would find, because Devin really, like, they are prescribing me just the autoimmune meds. That's only once in a blue moon that they give me like the diazepam, and I go to my my primary care provider for that because I see her more often. I do way more sit downs with her. So it's more appropriate for her to prescribe that because it's for muscle spasms. It's not for anxiety. Just like gabapentin. I understand some people take it for mental health and stuff like that. I've had polyneuropathy for years. So I take 1 low dose in the morning just for that, right? I don't take the Valium or the diazepam every day. That's for like after I do like a bad workout or like anything a little bit too much, it might literally muscles get super rigid, stop pulling at my joints. That's when I take it. It's not an everyday thing by any means.
So are those from your primary care doctor?
Yeah, so I get that mostly. Like she prescribed it like once or twice, but a very short script. The rheumatologist, I mean, okay. A very short script and a very low dose too. I only take 5 milligrams anyways as needed as a muscle relaxer. And that again is something I'm only taking if I'm home or say my dad's driving me around someday. It's not something I go out and I take and, you know what I mean, drive around and stuff like that. Because usually I'm stuck home when I have to take it because I'm in so much pain. So yeah, so my primary care, but I'm just saying Devin's a fierce advocate, but as far as the meds, it's my psychiatrist and my primary care.
All right, so let's do that then. I'll have Darcy when we send you off like the follow up from today's meeting. We'll attach a blank release for your primary care doctor, and then also we can send you a release for our lead agency in the event that you are interested in a parent aid.
Yeah.
Or maybe even some family therapy that we could put in.
Well, we're gonna need that regardless. That was the first thing I asked for when the dumpling, I'm right here. It's okay. We're wrapping up in just a moment. Thank you.
Sorry. I did make some outside referrals, not for a lead, but outside referrals for family therapy. I just am not sure if any of them ever got to you. I know some have reached back to me.
Oh, okay. No, none of them got back to me.
Okay.
Maybe just make sure they have my right number, or maybe you could even send me their contacts. That would be fine, because it was the first thing I asked when they walked in the house. I'm like, look, now that you guys are back involved, I go, my daughter and I are gonna need like a try. Like we were already on list for family therapy, but I haven't heard back either, and now we're going on like a year of being waitlisted. We need family therapy, because my family does not put the fun in dysfunctional, as that little saying goes. Like, my family's been dysfunctional forever, and that's what I'm trying to break the kind of the curse of. And no, I'm no angel in my past and stuff. Like, I'm learning day by day how to do this and to like raise a child, you know, appropriately. But it's very hard when my family and I have two very distinct different ways of parenting and like discipline and things like that. So that's where a huge disconnect also happens between me and Ari. Because like my strictness will get taken as will be reported as something else, and then the fights happen. So we need family therapy. We've needed it since her father died, and then my friend killed himself 6 months later. Like, it was that year was a lot. So yeah,
we can do that. We can put in a referral for. We'll send over the blank release for your primary care, and we'll also send over.
And I'll sign one for Devin.
A blank release for our lead agency. So Darcy did the community-based like services, like referrals for family therapy. But because, like you said, the wait list has been so long, we can talk about putting in a referral for family therapy through through a DCF like lead agency, where it's not meant to be long term, which is why we tried.
It's like a bridge, right? It's like a bridge.
Yeah, it would probably be like 3 to 6 months or something like that, but better than nothing,
right?
To get the ball rolling.
So I know we have to close.
You can, take a look at it with your attorney and see if you think that these things would be helpful. We could put a parent aid in and things like that, and then we can kind of follow back up on it when we meet in August.
Because my only so closing up, like, that's my only concern is I know Lisa is moving for like permanent guardianship and all that, so I just want to make sure that over on that end that like you guys' goals are clear with her, because again, we're going to trial at court in Brockton. You know what I mean? My lawyer's taking this to trial, and it's a lot of records to go through and stuff. And I don't think Lisa has the proof that she thinks she needs, that she thinks she has or whatever. So, but again, this is like a lot of stress. It's a lot of stuff coming up. So yeah, I just want to make sure that, you know what I mean, Lisa's actually being spoken to about the communication and de-escalating my child, and if she even knows what to do in the event that my child's escalating. Because again, like, I might not be super organized, brilliant receptionist and stuff that she does, and like all the but you know what, like, my knack was in like counseling and psych, and you know what I mean, I was trained very well in de-escalation and stuff like that, and I haven't been escalating Ari when she's upset. I calm myself down and listen to her, because this has gotten trust me, this has taught me a lot. I don't even want to fight with her. It makes me cry. I just start blubbering. She's like, so what happened to you?
We're definitely not, you know, we are not in any way advocating for you to be isolated from her or her to be isolated from you. We just, our hope would be that your time together is positive, and that
so it was, and it was great. It was great. I cried when she left. That's usually the only thing I thought, but it was kind of nice too, because we have been fighting. I know you need to go. We had been arguing because of things that were being said and this and that, and I thought I had her for 2 days. And I found out when we were watching the movie that she was leaving the next day, and I was wicked bummed because I had like all these plans, and I like couldn't. I wasn't like crying, but I just kept having tears, and she kept looking over. Really good, like positive thing I took out of it too was like she was very kind. She was very like compassionate about it. And I think it honestly, with all the stuff she's been probably hearing or whatever, she was like, oh, wait, this is kind of having like an impact on my mom. Like my mom does miss me. My mom does cherish me and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And she made sure I walked her down to Lisa's car. She was like, no, come walk me down to Lisa's car. Just come say hi to Addison. You know what I mean? So I appreciated that like support from her as well. You know what I mean? Because when we're together, it's just like we're right back together again. Every time we had fights like that, we always reconciled. We always did fresh starts. So that's just not happening right now.
Like you said earlier, listen, there's no way that you're gonna get like, especially with teenagers, but it's not all rainbows and sunshine, right?
No.
So it really is about like how, when things are heated, what do you do, and how do you come back together, and how do you work through that? And I do think that, you know, our hope would be that you guys do engage in a family service to help things. And it could be that we ask that person, right? Almost the way that you have, like when we have a divorced couple that's working with a
that's
kid,
basically what it's like
say,
with my sister.
Like, you gotta go to both households and make this, like, I mean, you know, not that it needs to be perfect, but we need to make sure that you guys are sending the same messages.
Exactly.
And there are court orders where it's expected that no one speaks ill of the other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right. No, I know. So we do need to go and file a motion before the trial, and I intend to do that. And no, I do appreciate you guys' time. It's just like frustrating because it's like this whole time has like empowered Lisa to make her feel like she's always doing the right thing, and that is very, very difficult. And I just want my daughter to be okay and to get saved, and I'm never going to get this time back that I've lost the past 8 months, and that's very heartbreaking. And that hurts a lot. So but no, when we're together, it's good. And at the right time, I'll tell you, I do have a new safety plan for when she's home and things are escalated. I don't want Lisa even getting a sniff out of it, because every time she does, she ends up like kind of like infiltrating that person, telling them a lot of untruths about me, that I'm abusing my child and drugs and this, that, and the other thing. So I wouldn't want her even knowing my safety plan and things like that. But I do have one completely responsible. So we can talk about that another time. I suppose, or me and Lydia could. So, but I don't want you to make you wait for your meeting.
Do we want to schedule now, or?
You can, if you guys want to schedule after, so you can get to your meeting, and then just email me. That's fine.
All right. Does it work better for you for us to be doing like a Thursday or a Friday? Like, did that seem like it was a better plan?
Yeah, it's fine. Honestly, it's fine. Because what are we booking into August?
There are days that work best for you right now in August?
No, because honestly, I have like the random appointments and stuff, and I think I'm pretty free for August right now. I don't think I have much planned at all. Because I got a lot of appointments done the past 2 weeks. I'm so happy, but it frees me up for so long, though. It's like, yes, it's done.
So we'll send you, when we send you those releases in an email with with a summary of today's meeting and the agenda for next time.
Okay.
We'll also give you like a couple of dates and times as options, and you can just email us back which one works for you.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's
Sound
fine.
good?
Yep. All right. Thank you for your time, ladies. Have a good one.
Yes, you as well.
All right.
Thank
Happy
you so
Friday.
much, and I know I interjected a lot. But
No, I appreciate it because I wanted to hear you out. So that's what you need to do sometimes, especially when I'm emotional. All right.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Bye.
You too.